Elena Vasquez walked through the halls of the Earth Confederation building. Her shoes clicked on the metal floor as she headed to the emergency meeting. The message from the Alien Coalition had arrived just an hour ago. It was not good news. The meeting room was full of worried faces. Admiral Sarah Chen sat at the big table, looking at data on her tablet. President Martinez paced back and forth near the window that showed Earth's blue sky. Dr. Marcus Webb stood in the corner, quiet as always. "They want an answer in 48 hours, Elena said, as she took her seat. "The hegemony is not asking. They are demanding." For 200 years, humans had lived peacefully among the stars. They had colonies on 12 worlds and traded with dozens of alien races. Earth's policy was simple: stay neutral, help when asked, and never start fights. It had worked well until now. The galaxy was at war. On one side stood the hegemony, 7 ancient alien races that ruled most of the galaxy. Their leaders were the crystal-like Vorthak and the hive-minded Zelani. They had ruled for 10,000 years with superior technology and brutal force. Any race that opposed them was crushed. On the other side was the Outer Rim Alliance. These were younger races fighting for freedom from hegemony rule. They were smaller and weaker, but they refused to bow down. The war had been going on for 5 years now, and millions had died. Both sides wanted humanity to join them. Humans had something special. They were excellent at organizing supplies and moving things across space quickly. Their position between hegemony and alliance space made them valuable allies. But Earth had chosen to stay out of the fight. What exactly did they say? President Martinez asked. Elena pulled up the alien message on the room's big screen. The face of Prime Executor Zethkara appeared. The Vorthak leader looked like a walking diamond with sharp crystal features that reflected light in strange ways. "Humans of Earth," the alien's voice was cold and harsh. "Your neutrality has gone on too long. While you sit safely in your systems, rebels use your space to move weapons and supplies. Your merchants sell to our enemies. Your diplomats protect those who should be destroyed." The message continued. "The hegemony has been patient, but patience has limits. You have 48 hours to choose. Join us as loyal members of Galactic Order, or be treated as enemies who support chaos." The room was silent when the message ended. Everyone knew what treated as enemies meant. Just last week, the hegemony had destroyed 3 Alliance colonies in a single day. 15 billion people had died when the alien warships turned those worlds into burning glass. "They can't be serious," said Admiral Chen. "We've done nothing wrong. We trade with everyone equally. We've helped both sides with medical supplies and food." "That's exactly the problem," Elena replied. "To them, helping both sides means helping their enemies. They see neutrality as betrayal." Dr. Webb finally spoke from his corner. "How many ships do they have in our area?" Admiral Chen checked her tablet. "Our scouts report at least 500 hegemony warships gathering near the border. That's 10 times what we saw during the Proxima incident last year." The Proxima incident had been a warning. When human traders sold medicine to an alliance world, hegemony ships had appeared at Proxima Centauri. They had not attacked, but their message was clear: stop helping our enemies or face the consequences. "What about our fleet?" President Martinez asked. 200 ships, including patrol boats and cargo vessels," Admiral Chen said. "Maybe 50 are real warships. Against the hegemony's full fleet." She did not need to finish. Elena stood and walked to the window. Earth looked so peaceful from up here. Green continents, blue oceans, white clouds. It was hard to believe that alien warships might soon turn it into a burning rock. "We could evacuate the colonies," she said quietly. "Bring everyone back to Earth and hope they leave us alone." "That won't work," said Dr. Webb. "If we show weakness, they'll push harder. And where would 12 million colonists live on Earth?" President Martinez stopped pacing. "What if we agree to their terms? Join the hegemony but keep our hands clean?" "You know what they'll ask us to do," Admiral Chen said. "Transport their troops. Build weapons. Attack alliance worlds. Once we're in, we can't get out." Elena turned back to the group. "I've been thinking about this for months. The hegemony doesn't just want allies. They want slaves. Look at what happened to the Kefri. Everyone knew the story. The Kefri had been a proud warrior race until they joined the hegemony 50 years ago. Now they were nothing but soldiers bred in labs and programmed to fight. Their original culture was gone, replaced by hegemony control. "So what do?" President Martinez asked. "We can't fight them. We can't run. We can't join them." The room fell silent again. Outside, Earth continued its slow turn, unaware that its people faced an impossible choice. Dr. Webb moved away from the wall. "There might be another option," he said slowly. "But you won't like it." All eyes turned to him. Webb was known for his strange theories about space and time. Most people thought he was a little crazy, but his ideas sometimes worked. "What kind of option?" Elena asked. "I can't say much yet. I need to check something first, but if I'm right, we might not be as helpless as we think." Before anyone could ask more questions, Admiral Chen's tablet beeped with an urgent message. She read it and her face went pale. "What is it?" President Martinez demanded. "Intelligence just intercepted a hegemony communication. It's coded, but we broke part of it." She paused. "They're not just threatening us. They're planning to attack no matter what we choose." Elena felt her blood turn cold. "What do you mean?" Admiral Chen read from her tablet. "The message mentions sterilization protocols for the human breeding worlds and example making for other neutral species. They never planned to accept our surrender. The truth hit everyone at the same time. The ultimatum was fake. The hegemony had already decided to destroy humanity as a warning to other races. They would kill every human in the galaxy to show what happened to those who stayed neutral." President Martinez slammed his fist on the table. "Those alien bastards played us from the beginning." Elena's mind raced. Everything made sense now. The hegemony's sudden demand for an answer, the massive fleet gathering near human space, the timing right after humanity had helped evacuate civilians from a war zone. "They want to make an example," she said. "Show the galaxy that neutrality is impossible. Join them or die." Dr. Webb was already heading for the door. "I need to get to my lab immediately. If they're coming anyway, then we have nothing to lose." "Webb, wait," Admiral Chen called. "What are you planning?" The scientist paused at the door. His usually calm face showed something new, determination mixed with fear. Something that might save us all. Or destroy everything we know. But since they plan to kill us anyway, he shrugged. "What's the worst that could happen?" As he left, Elena wondered if humanity's greatest scientist had finally lost his mind. Or if he was their only hope. The countdown had begun. In less than 40 hours, the hegemony fleet would arrive. Earth's small navy would try to defend 12 worlds against an empire that ruled half the galaxy. But somewhere in his secret laboratory, Dr. Marcus Webb was about to discover that humanity had allies they never knew existed, and enemies they had never imagined. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Defiance, watching the enemy fleet approach. Through the main window, she could see thousands of alien ships moving toward Earth like a deadly swarm. The largest vessel was the size of a city, its crystal hull glowing with power. "Admiral, they're bigger than we thought," reported Lieutenant Torres from his station. "Our count shows over 8,000 enemy ships. Their flagship is 15 kilometers long." Chen nodded grimly. The hegemony had sent enough firepower to destroy 100 worlds. Against Earth's 200 ships, it would be a massacre. But they had to try. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen," she spoke into the communication system. "Remember why we fight? Behind us is Earth, humanity's birthworld. We may not win today, but we will make them pay for every meter of space." The past 36 hours had been chaos. As soon as the intercepted message confirmed hegemony plans, Earth had begun preparing for war. Evacuation ships launched from the outer colonies, carrying civilians toward Earth. The asteroid belt had been turned into a fortress, with hidden weapons and shields. But Chen knew it would not be enough. The hegemony had weapons that could tear holes in reality itself. Their ships moved faster than anything humans had built. Their shields could stop nuclear explosions. "Admiral," came Dr. Webb's voice over the radio from his secret research station. "I need 10 more minutes. Don't let them reach the inner system. Webb, we're about to face 8,000 alien warships. What exactly are you doing out there?" There was a pause. "Something impossible. Trust me." The hegemony fleet was now close enough to see details. The alien ships looked like living things with organic curves and pulsing lights. At their center was the massive flagship Eternal Dominion, commanded by Prime Executor Zethkara himself. "They're targeting our defense platforms," Torres reported. "Energy readings are off the charts." The first hegemony attack lit up space like a new star. Plasma beams struck the asteroid fortifications, turning rock and metal into vapor. But instead of collapsing, the hidden shields held. The asteroids had been hollowed out and filled with Earth's most advanced technology. "Return fire," Chen ordered. Human missiles and energy weapons struck back. Several alien ships exploded in brilliant flashes, but hundreds more took their place. The battle had begun. For 20 minutes, the fight seemed even. Earth's asteroid defenses were stronger than the aliens expected. Human pilots flew their smaller ships between the giant enemy vessels, attacking weak points. But slowly, the hegemony's superior firepower began to tell. Shield generators 1 through 5 are down, Torres called out. The western asteroid cluster is breaking apart. Chen watched human ships die one by one. Each explosion meant dozens of her people were gone. The Defiance shook as alien weapons struck its hull. "Admiral," her communications officer said, "President Martinez is asking about evacuation protocols." "Tell him not yet," Chen replied. "If they ran now, the hegemony would hunt down every human ship. We hold the line." That's when the impossible happened. Space behind the alien fleet suddenly tore open like paper. A hole in reality itself appeared, and through it came a single human ship. But this vessel was unlike anything in Earth's navy. Its hull seemed to be made of living metal that shifted and flowed. Strange lights pulsed along its surface. "Unknown ship, identify yourself," Chen transmitted. "This is Dr. Marcus Webb aboard the research vessel Quantum Gate," came the reply. "Sorry I'm late. Testing took longer than expected." Before Chen could ask what he meant, more holes opened in space. Human ships began appearing behind hegemony lines, emerging from the tiers in reality like ghosts. They struck the alien fleet from impossible angles, then vanished back into the holes. The hegemony formation collapsed into chaos. Their ships spun around trying to find targets that appeared and disappeared at will. The massive flagship Eternal Dominion fired in all directions, hitting its own vessels as often as human ones. "Webb, how are you doing that?" Chen demanded over the radio. "Quantum tunneling," he replied calmly, as if discussing the weather. "I've learned to fold space-time. We can attack from anywhere in the galaxy and be back here in seconds." The tide of battle turned completely. Hegemony ships that had seemed invincible were now being destroyed by enemies they couldn't predict or catch. The crystal hull of the Eternal Dominion began to crack as human weapons struck it from 6 directions at once. Prime Executor Zeth Kara's voice boomed across all frequencies. "Impossible. How do these primitive creatures possess quantum manipulation technology? We had good teachers," Webb replied mysteriously. Chen guided the Defiance through the battlefield, watching in amazement as her ships performed maneuvers that violated everything she knew about physics. They would disappear into a quantum tunnel, travel instantly across the solar system, and emerge behind an enemy formation. But the biggest shock was yet to come. As the Eternal Dominion tried to retreat, Webb's strange ship moved to intercept it. The vessel's living metal hull began to change, growing weapons that looked like they belonged in a nightmare. Energy beams struck the flagship with power that made Earth's weapons look like toys. "Webb," Chen called. "What kind of ship are you flying?" "It's not entirely from our universe," he admitted. "During my experiments, I accidentally opened a doorway to a parallel reality. The humans there evolved differently. They achieved technological transcendence but nearly destroyed themselves in the process. The Eternal Dominion was breaking apart under the assault. Pieces of crystal hull flew in all directions as the massive ship died. They call themselves the Other Humans," Webb continued. "They've been watching our reality for years, waiting for the right moment to make contact. When they saw the hegemony planning to destroy us, they decided to help." Chen watched the enemy flagship explode in a ball of fire that lit up half the solar system. Around them, the surviving hegemony ships were fleeing through faster-than-light jumps, running from an enemy they couldn't understand or fight. "Admiral," Torres reported, "enemy fleet is retreating. We've won." But Chen didn't feel like celebrating. She looked at Webb's impossible ship and wondered what humanity had gotten itself into. "Webb, are these other humans friendly?" There was a long pause before he answered. "They're us from a reality where we made different choices. But Admiral, they're not quite human anymore. The technology they gave us comes with a price." "What kind of price?" "The quantum manipulation abilities will be passed down through our genetics. Every human child born from now on will be able to bend space and time. We're not just winning a war, Admiral. We're evolving into something new." Chen felt a chill run down her spine. Around Earth, the debris of the alien fleet drifted in space. They had defeated the mighty hegemony in a single battle. But at what cost? "Are you saying we're becoming like them? The other humans?" "Eventually, yes. The power to manipulate quantum fields will become as natural as breathing for future generations. Humanity will transcend the limitations of normal matter and energy. Chen looked out at the stars and wondered what they had unleashed. The hegemony had demanded that humanity stay neutral. Instead, they had turned Earth's people into something beyond conventional existence. The war was far from over. News of the defeat would spread across the galaxy, and the hegemony would respond with even greater force. But now humanity had weapons and allies that existed outside normal reality. As she ordered the fleet to regroup, Chen couldn't shake the feeling that winning this battle might have doomed them all to become monsters. The galaxy was about to learn that some victories were more terrifying than any defeat. Prime Executor Zeth Kara stared at the holographic display showing the wreckage of his once mighty fleet. The crystal spires of his command chamber reflected his rage as he processed the impossible defeat at Earth. For 10,000 years, the hegemony had never lost a major battle. Now a species they considered primitive had destroyed the eternal dominion itself. How many ships survived? He asked his aide, a nervous Zilani whose compound eyes twitched with fear. Less than 2,000, Prime Executor. The humans used some form of quantum manipulation that allowed them to appear anywhere in the battle space. Our sensors could not track them. Zeth Kara's crystalline features hardened. Quantum manipulation is impossible for carbon-based life forms. They must have discovered ancient technology or made contact with a transcended species. What are your orders, Prime Executor? Mobilize everything. Every ship, every weapon, every warrior in hegemony space. The humans are now classified as a Category 9 extinction threat. This is no longer a war of conquest. This is survival. Across the galaxy, the hegemony's war machine began to move. Fleets that had been fighting the Outer Rim Alliance were recalled. Factory worlds increased weapon production. Ancient vessels sealed in hidden armories were awakened and prepared for battle. But Earth was not waiting for them to come. Captain Maria Santos materialized her ship out of a quantum tunnel above the hegemony world of Kefara. Around her, a dozen other human vessels appeared from nowhere, their hulls glowing with the strange energy Webb's technology provided. Target the orbital shipyards, she commanded. Hit them fast and get out before reinforcements arrive. The attack was over in minutes. Plasma torpedoes struck the massive construction facilities, turning them into expanding clouds of debris. The human ships vanished back into quantum space before the planetary defenses could respond. This scene repeated across hegemony territory. Human raiders appeared without warning, struck military targets, and disappeared. The aliens' superior technology meant nothing when their enemies could attack from dimensions beyond normal space. In his laboratory aboard the research station, Dr. Webb worked frantically to understand the technology the other humans had given him. The quantum manipulation devices were far beyond Earth's science, but he was beginning to grasp their principles. Admiral Chen, he called over the communication system, I've made a breakthrough. The quantum tunnels don't just allow instant travel. They can be used to manipulate matter at the atomic level. Chen's voice crackled back through space. What does that mean? We can age enemy ships by decades and seconds. We can transport their crews into parallel dimensions. We can convert matter into exotic energy states. The possibilities are nearly unlimited. How close are we to mass production? That's the problem, Webb admitted. The technology requires a specific type of quantum field that only humans can generate. It's something in our neural structure that makes us compatible with the equipment, but each device takes weeks to build. Despite the limitations, Earth's hit-and-run campaign was working. Hegemony supply lines collapsed as human raiders destroyed cargo fleets. Military bases fell silent as their defenders were transported to empty dimensions. The ancient empire that had ruled for millennia found itself helpless against an enemy that could strike from anywhere and retreat to safety. But the hegemony's response was brutal. Admiral, Lieutenant Torres called from his station aboard the Defiance. We're receiving a transmission from hegemony space. It's being broadcast on all frequencies. The main screen showed Prime Executor Zeth Kara standing in what looked like a prison cell. Behind him, human prisoners were chained to the walls. Among them was Elena Vasquez's daughter, a diplomatic officer who had been captured during a failed peace mission. Humans of Earth. The alien leader spoke, his crystal voice filled with hate. Your quantum tricks will not save you. For every raid you conduct, we will execute 10 human prisoners. For every ship you destroy, we will glass an inhabited world. The transmission showed other screens. Hegemony fleets were positioning themselves above non-aligned worlds throughout the galaxy. The message was clear. continue fighting and billions of innocents would die. Elena watched in horror as her daughter was dragged forward. The young woman's face was bruised, but her eyes showed no fear, only defiance. "We know you can see this, Ambassador Vasquez," Zeth Kara continued. "Your neutrality started this war. Your daughter will pay for your choices." The execution was broadcast live across the galaxy. Elena fell to her knees as her child died, murdered to make a point about human resistance. But Zeth Kara had made a mistake. Instead of breaking human resolve, the execution ignited something darker. President Martinez called an emergency meeting of the War Council. When they gathered, his face was cold with rage. "The gloves come off," he said simply. "Dr. Webb, what's the most destructive weapon the other humans showed you?" Webb hesitated. "There's something they call a reality-severing device. It can disconnect sections of space-time from the quantum foundation that holds the universe together. Anything caught in the effect simply ceases to exist. How large an area can it affect? A single device could erase an entire star system, make it so it never existed at all. But President Martinez using such a weapon would mean—" "I know what it means," Martinez interrupted. "Prepare 7 devices. Target the hegemony core worlds. If they want to play with genocide, they'll learn what real extinction looks like." Admiral Chen stood up. "Sir, that's not just murder. That's the complete erasure of 7 civilizations. Trillions of lives." "They executed my diplomat's daughter on live television," Martinez replied. "They're threatening to destroy entire worlds unless we surrender to slavery. How many more Elena Vasquezes should I create before we fight back?" Elena herself spoke from the back of the room. Her voice was quiet but filled with cold fury. "Do it, end them all. Make sure no parent ever has to watch their child die for an alien's political message." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what they were discussing. This was not war in any conventional sense. This was the complete annihilation of entire species. Dr. Webb finally nodded. "The other humans warned me this might be necessary. They faced a similar choice in their reality. The quantum severing devices will take 2 weeks to build." "You have 1 week," Martinez said. "The hegemony wants to make examples of innocent worlds? We'll make examples of their core systems." As the meeting broke up, Elena remained seated, staring at her hands. Admiral Chen approached her. "Elena, are you sure about this? Once we cross this line, there's no going back." Elena looked up and Chen saw something frightening in her eyes. The diplomatic, peaceful woman who had advocated for neutrality was gone. In her place was someone capable of ordering the death of entire galaxies. They made the choice when they murdered my daughter on live television. Now they'll face the consequences. Across the galaxy, the war continued. Human raiders struck deeper into hegemony territory, while alien fleets prepared to destroy inhabited worlds in retaliation. But in secret laboratories, Earth scientists worked on weapons that would make conventional warfare obsolete. The hegemony had demanded neutrality and received resistance. Soon they would learn what humanity did to those who murdered their children. They would discover that some species, when pushed beyond all limits, became monsters capable of unmaking reality itself. The quantum severing devices neared completion, and with them, the power to delete entire civilizations from existence. The galaxy stood on the edge of an abyss, and humanity was about to push its enemies into the void. But first, they would make the hegemony watch their universe burn, star by star, until nothing remained but empty space where their empire once ruled. The hunt was ending, and the real war was about to begin. The war entered a new phase of horror that shocked even the battle-hardened species of the galaxy. Human ships no longer simply attacked and retreated. They had become something far worse. Commander Jackson piloted his vessel through a quantum tunnel and emerged above the hegemony fortress world of Vexmore. His ship looked the same from the outside, but the weapons it carried defied all known physics. "Target the orbital defense platforms," he ordered his crew. "Deploy temporal accelerators." Strange beams struck the alien installations. Within seconds, the metal structures began to rust and decay as centuries of time passed in moments. Ancient supports crumbled to dust. Power systems aged beyond functionality. The mighty defenses became scrap metal floating in space. But Jackson was not finished. He activated another of Dr. Webb's impossible weapons. Reality distortion fields surrounded the enemy ships, and their crews suddenly found themselves displaced into parallel dimensions where they suffocated in alien atmospheres. The hegemony defenders never had a chance to fight back. Their weapons struck empty space where human ships had been microseconds before, while their own vessels were torn apart by forces that should not exist. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Human raiders had become something beyond conventional military forces. They wielded weapons that converted matter into exotic energy, aged targets by millennia, or simply deleted sections of enemy ships from reality. In the hegemony capital, Prime Executor Zethkara watched his empire crumble. Reports flooded in from every sector. Human attacks that defied explanation, losses that mounted into the millions, and a growing sense that they faced an enemy beyond their understanding. "How many worlds have we lost this week?" he asked his military advisor. 47 colonies have gone silent," the nervous Zelani replied. "The humans aren't just destroying our installations. They're making entire regions of space uninhabitable. Our scientists can't explain the quantum distortions they're leaving behind." Zethkara studied the tactical displays. The red markers showing human activity were spreading like an infection across the galaxy. Each raid left behind areas where space itself seemed wounded. "What about our retaliation strikes against civilian worlds? We've destroyed 12 inhabited planets in the past month, but it doesn't seem to affect their operations. If anything, the humans become more aggressive. After each retaliation, the truth was that humanity had moved beyond caring about conventional losses. Dr. Webb's technology allowed them to evacuate threatened civilians through quantum tunnels faster than hegemony fleets could target them. The alien strategy of terrorizing non-combatants had backfired completely. On Earth, the War Council met in an emergency session. President Martinez looked older, worn down by months of making decisions that would have been unthinkable before the war. "Dr. Webb, status report on Operation Severance," he said. Webb stood at the holographic display, showing the 7 hegemony core systems. "The quantum severing devices are complete. Strike teams are in position around each target world. We're ready to proceed." Elena Vasquez, now serving as Director of Strategic Operations, studied the star charts. Since her daughter's execution, she had become the most ruthless advocate for total victory. The diplomacy and compassion that once defined her were gone, replaced by cold calculation. "Estimated casualties?" she asked. "Complete erasure of 7 star systems means roughly 800 billion hegemony citizens will cease to exist," Webb replied quietly. "But it's not just death. These worlds will be severed from reality's quantum foundation. They will never have existed at all." Admiral Chen shifted uncomfortably. "The Outer Rim Alliance is asking what our plans are after the hegemony falls. They're starting to worry about our capabilities." "Good," Elena said. "Fear will keep them in line. The galaxy needs to understand that threatening humanity has consequences." President Martinez nodded. "Any word from the other humans about long-term effects?" Webb hesitated. "They've gone silent since we started using the reality manipulation weapons. I think they're afraid of what we're becoming." "What do you mean?" "In their reality, the other humans faced a similar choice. They used quantum manipulation to defeat their enemies but became addicted to the power. Eventually, they consumed their entire universe's resources trying to maintain their transcended state. That's why so few of them remain." The room fell silent. Everyone understood the implication. Humanity was following the same path that had nearly destroyed their parallel selves. "Are you saying we shouldn't proceed?" Martinez asked. Elena answered before Webb could speak. "We've come too far to stop now. The hegemony chose this path when they murdered innocents. They wanted neutrality. They'll get the ultimate neutrality, non-existence." Webb reluctantly activated the communication system connecting to the strike teams. "All units, this is Control. Authorization confirmed for Operation Severance. Begin deployment of quantum severing devices." Across 7 star systems, human infiltration teams moved into position. These were no longer the same soldiers who had fought at Earth. Months of using quantum manipulation technology had changed them at a genetic level. They could phase through solid matter, manipulate probability fields, and survive in environments that would kill normal humans. Strike Team Alpha materialized in the depths of the Vorthak homeworld. The crystalline caves that housed their ancient civilization stretched for kilometers underground. Captain Torres, Elena's own son who had volunteered for the mission, carried the quantum severing device toward the planet's core. "Remember," came Webb's voice through his communicator, "once the device activates, you have 30 seconds to reach the extraction point." The quantum cascade will erase everything within the system boundary. Torres and his team fought through automated defenses that recognized the threat too late. Crystal guardians rose from the walls, but human weapons converted them to harmless light patterns. Ancient security systems tried to trap the intruders, but the humans simply phased into parallel dimensions and back. They reached the planet's quantum foundation point, the place where this reality anchored itself to the universal framework. Torres placed the severing device and activated the timer. "Device armed," he reported. "Beginning extraction." Similar scenes played out in 6 other star systems. Strike teams that had become something beyond human-planted weapons that would unmake entire worlds. The hegemony's most ancient civilizations, species that had existed for millions of years, had 30 minutes left to exist. On the bridge of a hegemony monitoring station, a terrified operator detected the quantum distortions beginning in their core systems. "Prime Executor," he transmitted frantically. "Massive quantum instabilities detected in the home systems. Something is severing our reality matrix." Zeth Kara's response was immediate. "All available fleets emergency jump to the core worlds. Evacuate the leadership casts immediately." But it was too late. The first quantum severing device activated in the Zalani Hive system. Reality simply stopped. The billions of interconnected minds that formed their collective consciousness didn't die. They ceased to have ever existed. The star itself unraveled as its quantum foundations were cut away from the universal framework. Where the Zalani homeworld had been, there was now nothing. Not empty space, not debris, but an absence so complete that even the concept of something having been there was erased from reality. One by one, the other devices activated. The Vorthek homeworld vanished. The ancient Kefri breeding worlds disappeared. 5 other species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia simply stopped existing, as if they had never been born. The hegemony fleets rushing to help their homeworlds found themselves traveling to coordinates that led to nothing. Not destroyed worlds, but regions where the very concept of worlds had been deleted from existence. Prime Executor Zeth Kara, aboard his emergency command ship, stared in horror at the reports flooding in. 7 star systems, the heart of hegemony civilization, had been erased so completely that his computers couldn't even remember what had been there. "How many survivors?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "None, Prime Executor. The quantum severing was complete. Those civilizations never existed. We cannot mourn them because there is nothing to mourn." Zeth Kara, the last Prime Executor of a hegemony that no longer had a home, realized that they had pushed humanity beyond all restraint. The species they had dismissed as primitive had become something capable of editing reality itself. But humanity was not finished. Elena Vasquez's voice came across all communication frequencies, reaching every surviving hegemony ship. "This is Director Vasquez of the Earth Confederation. You demanded neutrality. You murdered our diplomats. You threatened our worlds. Now you have seen what happens when you push humanity beyond mercy. Surrender immediately or join your homeworlds in non-existence." The war had become something beyond conventional conflict. Humanity had transcended into beings capable of unmaking their enemies from reality itself. The galaxy would never be the same. The galaxy held its breath in the aftermath of the quantum severing. Where 7 ancient civilizations had once ruled for millennia, there was now nothing but empty void, not destroyed, but erased so completely that even their history had been deleted from existence. The surviving hegemony forces floated in space above coordinates that led nowhere. Ships that had been rushing to defend their homeworlds now had no homes to return to. Prime Executor Zeth Kara, the last leader of an empire that no longer existed, faced a choice that would determine the fate of every remaining hegemony citizen. "Prime Executor," his aide whispered, "what are your orders?" Zeth Kara stared at the empty space where his crystal homeworld had been for 10 million years. His people's entire history, their culture, their sacred sites, all gone as if they had never been. The humans had not just committed genocide, they had performed something beyond imagination. "Open a channel to the human fleet," he said finally. Elena Vasquez appeared on the communication screen. The woman who had once advocated for peace now looked like something carved from ice. Her eyes held no warmth, no mercy, only the cold satisfaction of absolute victory. "Director Vasquez," Zeth Kara said, "the hegemony surrenders." "Unconditional?" Elena asked. "Yes. We will withdraw from all occupied territories. Our remaining fleets will disperse to the outer rim. We ask only that you do not erase us from existence. Elena studied the alien leader for a moment. Your word means nothing. You murdered children on live broadcast. You threatened to destroy entire worlds. Why should we show you mercy you never gave others? Because, Zethkara said quietly, you have already won. You have become something the galaxy fears more than we ever were. Showing mercy now might preserve what remains of your humanity. The words hung in space between them. Around the galaxy, billions of beings watched the exchange that would determine the future of galactic civilization. Elena's cold expression never changed. You have 1 hour to begin evacuation from all Alliance territories. Any hegemony ship found in occupied space after that will be severed from reality. There will be no second warnings. The transmission ended and the hegemony's retreat began immediately. Fleets that had once terrorized half the galaxy fled like frightened animals, abandoning conquests that had taken centuries to achieve. But the war's end brought no celebration on Earth. Dr. Webb stood in his laboratory, staring at the quantum manipulation devices that had made humanity the most feared species in the galaxy. The other humans had finally resumed communication, and their message was troubling. Admiral Chen, he called over the communication system, I need you to see this. Chen arrived to find Webb's laboratory filled with holographic displays showing parallel realities. In each one, she saw different versions of humanity. Some had transcended into beings of pure energy. Others had consumed their entire universe in an endless hunger for power. A few had simply vanished, having erased themselves from existence by accident. The other humans sent these recordings. Webb explained. They're showing us what happens to species that gain quantum manipulation abilities. None of them remain unchanged. Power like this. It transforms you whether you want it to or not. What are you saying? Look at us, Admiral. A year ago, we were peaceful traders and diplomats. Now we've erased 7 civilizations from existence without hesitation. We've become something that terrifies the galaxy. Chen studied the images of transcended humans. They looked powerful but also alien, no longer recognizable as the species that had once struggled to reach their own moon. Is there a way back? The other humans say no. Once a species gains the ability to manipulate quantum reality, the changes become irreversible. Our children will be born with these abilities. Future generations will see normal matter and energy as toys to be reshaped at will. On Earth, President Martinez called a final meeting of the War Council. The room was filled with the same people who had once debated whether to stay neutral. Now they ruled a galaxy through fear and commanded weapons that could delete reality itself. The Outer Rim Alliance is requesting a meeting, he announced. They want to discuss the new galactic order. Elena studied the reports from across known space. Former hegemony territories were declaring independence or asking for Earth's protection. Trade routes had collapsed as species feared traveling through areas where humans might appear. Entire civilizations were evacuating systems near human space. They're afraid of us, Admiral Chen observed. Good, Elena replied. Fear will keep the peace better than any treaty. President Martinez looked around the room. The question is, what kind of galaxy do we want to rule? The hegemony maintained order through brutality. What will our method be? Dr. Webb activated a holographic display showing the current galactic situation. Red zones marked areas where reality had been damaged by quantum weapons. Yellow zones showed regions where space itself was unstable from human operations. Only small green areas remained completely unaffected. We're already changing the nature of reality just by existing, he said. Each time we use quantum manipulation, we leave permanent scars on the universe. If we continue on this path, the display shifted to show projections of galactic space in 50 years. Most of the galaxy was colored red, regions where normal physics no longer applied, where reality itself had been warped beyond recognition. We'll eventually consume everything, Webb concluded, just like the other humans did to their universe. The power to reshape reality is also the power to accidentally destroy it. Elena stood and walked to the window overlooking Earth. The planet looked peaceful, but she knew that children were being born down there with abilities that would make them gods among normal species. The hegemony wanted us to stay neutral, she said finally. They threatened our families, murdered our diplomats, and tried to exterminate us for refusing to choose sides. She turned back to the room. Now every species in the galaxy will think twice before threatening humanity. Our children will grow up in a universe where no one dares harm them. If that makes us monsters, then so be it. Admiral Chen felt a chill as she recognized the cold certainty in Elena's voice. This was no longer the diplomatic woman who had once advocated for peace. The war had transformed them all into something harder, colder, more willing to use unimaginable power to achieve their goals. Across the galaxy, the new reality was taking shape. Human ships appeared in strategic locations, not as conquerors but as silent reminders of what happened to those who opposed Earth. Former hegemony worlds lined up to pledge loyalty to the species that had demonstrated the power to erase civilizations from existence. The Outer Rim Alliance, which had once fought desperately for freedom, now sent carefully worded messages requesting trade agreements and non-aggression pacts. They had seen what humanity did to enemies and wanted to ensure they remained friends. In the empty void where hegemony core systems had once existed, monitoring stations detected strange quantum echoes. Something was stirring in the spaces between reality, suggesting that deletion from existence might not be as permanent as believed. But those were concerns for another day. Dr. Webb's final report to the War Council was brief but troubling. Genetic analysis confirms that all human children born since the war began show quantum manipulation abilities. The changes are now irreversible and hereditary. Humanity has evolved beyond its original form. Elena read the report without emotion. Then we'll teach them to use their power wisely. The galaxy wanted us to choose a side. We chose humanity. As the meeting ended and the leaders of the new galactic order dispersed, Elena remained alone in the conference room. Through the window, Earth continued its ancient rotation, unaware that its children had become something beyond the dreams or nightmares of their ancestors. The hegemony had demanded neutrality and received obliteration. The galaxy had learned that some species, when pushed beyond all limits, became powerful enough to rewrite the rules of existence itself. Whether that power would be used for protection or conquest remained to be seen. But one thing was certain: humanity would never again be forced to choose between submission and extinction. They had transcended such limitations, becoming beings capable of making entire civilizations cease to exist with a thought. The war was over. The real consequences were just beginning.